The girl is not wanted because she looks ordinary. She started to give up on herself and stopped caring about her image. But this also made her lose her sense of existence at school. Some strangers would even sit on her lap. She just wanted to talk to her best friend about her problems. But then she accidentally saw her favorite boy acting close to another girl. She could only stare at them with a dumbfounded look in her eyes. But compared to her unattractive appearance, more serious is her timid character. It was just an ordinary class debate, and stuttered and couldn't speak a complete sentence on the stage. She even suffered a serious physical reaction because she was too nervous. She could only run away from the debate in a terrible state amidst the jeers of her classmates. Annie was like an orchid hidden in the valley. She didn't dare to step out into the sunlight. She was prepared to live an ordinary life. But on her 16th birthday, her mother came to her to tell her that a grandmother she'd never met. She'd come all the way from Europe to see her. Annie's father had been dead since she was a child. She never remembered anyone other than her mother. She never remembered any other family. She didn't understand why her grandmother had come to see her. But the elders had come a long way to see her and could only agree with her mother. The next day she searched for the address that her mother had written to her, but she never expected. Her grandmother lived in a huge, luxurious estate. There were even cameras around the clock. Annie was stunned by what she saw. Not only was there a gentleman butler to guide her, there were also security officers searching her. In Annie's mind, her father had never been exposed to such an event. The decorations in the room were not only extremely strict and demanding, the flowers and fruits on the table had to be fresh and undamaged. It wasn't long before Annie saw her grandmother for the first time. There was an irresistible elegance about her, a grace and elegance that Annie had never seen before. She couldn't help but praise her, and Annie waited for her grandmother's compliment with great joy. But she didn't expect it to be so heartbreaking. Grandma's compliment was that she was young before they could exchange pleasantries. Grandma gave Annie a piece of antique jewelry, but Annie was too young to understand the value of it. Her every move also undoubtedly shows rudeness. In order to make Annie feel less nervous about her secret, Grandma took her to the garden. She told her the secret of being a princess of a small European country, and that she was the queen of the country. It turned out that Grandma was too old to take on the responsibility, and Annie was her son's only child. So according to the law of their country, Annie was the only heir to the throne, and her mother had kept the secret from her so that she could live in peace. That's why Grandma came here to find and to inherit the throne. When she heard the news, Annie didn't dare to accept it. Her face was full of shock and disbelief. Before her grandmother had time to react, she fled the garden like a frightened deer. She ran out of the villa without looking back. Annie couldn't accept the sudden change in her identity. She also felt incapable of rising to the dignity of a princess. All she wanted was to live an ordinary life as an unassuming little person. That's what she's been used to for so many years. In order to calm Anina's restlessness, Mom had to apologize to her with guilt, and said that this was a secret that she was going to reveal to her only when she turned 18. But now, due to her grandmother's deteriorating health, they also had to reveal the secret to her in advance. The next morning Grandma came home, after her mother's sincere counseling and her grandmother's pleading. Although Annie still had a lot of reluctance and resistance in her heart, Annie had no choice but to agree to try to become a princess. And Annie's introverted personality has always been spontaneous and loose. She also had to undergo this major makeover. Under the supervision of her designer and grandmother, Annie was exposed to the world of etiquette for the first time. From the most common way of standing to the customary way of walking, every detail was reorganized. From her behavior to the funny expressions on her face, all have Grandma's strict standards and requirements, not to mention the stooping and hunching and crossing her legs.